Your SCCM software updates are missing, synchronization status is failed, or WSyncMgr says the WSUS server is not configured. This deep dive teaches a safe, repeatable method for software update point and WSUS synchronization failures. We will separate Configuration Manager configuration, Site Server Communication, WSUS Health, IIS, Proxy, SSL, EULA download, and Upstream connectivity. Use only an isolated lab and your approved change process. Do not rebuild WSUS, delete SUP data, or reset services randomly. The goal is to preserve evidence, identify the first failed layer, correct one cause, and prove a clean synchronization afterward. First, understand the path. At the top level site, synchronization starts on a schedule or manually. WSUS communicates with Microsoft Update or an approved upstream WSUS source. Configuration Manager then imports metadata matching the products, classifications, languages, and superinstance settings defined at the top level. Child sites synchronize from their parent. Metadata is not the update binary. A successful metadata sync makes update information available in the console, while deployment packages and distribution handle content later. If the selected product or classification is wrong, synchronization may succeed but the update you expect will still be absent. Our generic lab symptom is, synchronization failed, and WSyncMgr reports that the WSUS server is not configured and refers us to WCM. Start in monitoring, software update point synchronization status. Record the last successful time, the exact failure time, content version, and recent changes such as a certificate renewal, proxy update, port change, WSUS move, or role reinstall. Determine whether all software update points fail or only a remote one. Do not immediately trigger repeated syncs. One clean reproduction with timestamped logs is more useful than 10 retries that overwrite the sequence. Use each log for its role. WSyncMgr on the site server tracks the synchronization request and result. WCM records how Configuration Manager configures the software update point and connects to WSUS. WSUS control performs periodic WSUS health checks and resides on the software update point itself, so on a remote SUP you must read it there. WSUS SoftwareDistribution.log adds WSUS side detail, especially for synchronization and EULA download problems. A healthy WSUS control does not prove that a remote site server can connect to WSUS. WCM can fail across the network while WSUS itself remains healthy. Before changing IIS or WSUS, validate Configuration Manager settings. Confirm the synchronization source and which SUP is the default source in the hierarchy. Make sure the ports configured on the software update point match the ports used by the WSUS website. Review products, classifications, languages, superinstance, and schedule. Microsoft states that the replica setting should never be selected on the top-level software update point or the first software update point for a primary site. It applies to other defined replica scenarios. If WSUS is remote, the WSUS administration console must be installed on the site server so the required APIs are available. When WCM or WSyncMgr shows HTTP 401, 403, 407, or 502, treat it as an authentication, authorization, proxy, or gateway problem. Verify the update services service and WSUS website, the correct fully qualified server name, and site server connectivity to a remote WSUS instance. Confirm proxy settings and the configured proxy or connection account only if your design requires one. Review permissions on the API Remoting 30 virtual directory. Do not grant broad administrator rights as a shortcut. Make the smallest supported permission correction, reproduce one sync, and confirm the original HTTP status no longer appears. HTTP 500 and 503 point toward a web service or availability problem. Confirm that the Update Services Service, World Wide Web Publishing Service, and the WSUS administration website are running. Correlate WCM and WSUS control timestamps with IIS logs and HTTP error logs. A 503 can reflect an unavailable or overloaded WSUS application pool, but do not copy a memory value from another environment without capacity review. First prove the app pool stopped, recycled, or exhausted resources. Correct the supported IIS or resource cause, then run WSUS health checking and one configuration manager synchronization. For HTTPS software update points, verify that the WSUS website certificate contains the correct fully qualified name, is valid, and chains to a trusted authority. Confirm that the configuration manager setting to use SSL matches the actual WSUS configuration and port. Microsoft warns that you cannot configure the entire WSUS website to require SSL because update files themselves are not retrieved through every SSL endpoint in that design. A certificate renewal can introduce a name, binding, or trust mismatch even when the new certificate looks valid. Compare configuration on both sides and test from the site server. Synchronization can fail while downloading update license files. Review SoftwareDistribution.log on WSUS and look for failed text or EULA downloads. Verify firewall access to Microsoft Update and the configured proxy. Error 0x80072EFE indicates that the upstream connection was terminated abnormally, so investigate network, proxy, TLS inspection, and Microsoft Update reachability. Microsoft documents WSUSUTIL reset to redownload missing content including EULAs, but use that only after the logs prove this failure family, with approval and a maintenance plan. It is not a universal sync fix. Use safe checks before remediation. WSUSUTIL check health results to the application event log. Confirm the update services and web publishing services. Test the approved lab host and configured port. For a remote SUP, use the WSUS administration console installed on the site server and connect with the exact fully qualified name and port. This validates the same API path that configuration manager needs. These checks do not authorize production changes. Record their output, sanitize screenshots, and avoid publishing host names, domains, addresses, site codes, or accounts. Prevention matters. Microsoft recommends using the WSUS maintenance options in Configuration Manager current branch version 1906 and later to automate cleanup after synchronization. Database backup and scheduled reindexing still require planning. If you perform maintenance, prevent software update point synchronization from running at the same time. In a hierarchy, follow Microsoft guidance for tier order rather than cleaning servers randomly. A neglected SUP can make cleanup take a long time, so do not start an aggressive maintenance job without backup, monitoring, and an approved window. Healthy maintenance reduces future synchronization and client scan pressure. Verify end-to-end. Confirm the intended source, ports, SSL, products, classifications, and replica design. Confirm WCM can configure and reach WSUS. Confirm WSUS control and the application log show healthy components. Run one synchronization and verify a clean completion in WSyncMgr without the original error. Confirm expected update metadata appears in the console, content version advances appropriately, and client policy can later receive the current software update point location. Document the root cause, exact change, before and after evidence, rollback plan, and prevention. Next masterclass episode will focus on client scan failures and update source policy.